First of all, Sean, thanks for joining us here on Astro SuperSport. It's really nice to meet you. Congratulations again, West Ham. Then a very comfortable win over Burnley. Did it feel a little bit more deserved, particularly after what is, I guess, a tricky and a difficult period of time here at Everton?
Yeah, I think from the early season form, we were playing very well. We weren't getting the results I thought we were due. We had to stick with the performance levels. We're doing that, and it's sort of beginning to pay us back. We won 5 out of 7. And a really good win down at West Ham, which has become a really tough place to go, and sort of edged it and did enough to win that. And then a very strong performance in the Cup against Burnley. So 2 pleasing results on the back of a number of results and a number of very good performances.
I thought the win over West Ham in particular was impressive because of how they've been doing under David Moyes, really. If you allow us into your mind a little bit, obviously without revealing too much, what was the preparation like, and what are some of the instructions you gave to your players in the lead to that match?
Yeah, to be honest, we've tried to keep the format of what we're doing quite simple. We've worked with the players, we make them aware of the opposition, but we equally work on what we're going to do to achieve the results. And I think we've been working a lot on the mindset of the group as well, going wherever we go to, home or away, ready to deliver performances. So I was pleased in that performance, in the sense West Ham has become a tough place. We know that over the last year or two they've done well to sort of turn their form around at their stadium, and I think we had to go down there with the right mindset, and I think that's improving all the time. And then when you add in the fact I do believe we've got some quality, real quality, then you come away with a nice win, and I think the mentality then keeps improving. The more you win, the more the mentality improves.
When you talk about that mindset, when things aren't going so well for the club, both on and off the pitch, of course, do you put it as your responsibility as the manager to rally the troops, or do you look at maybe a bit of your leadership group that you have?
I think it's in the modern way of looking at it, the manager has to lead, but I think there's certain leaders on the pitch, and I think leadership has changed in football on the pitch. I think some are vocal leaders, I think less so now. But you're looking for players who can lead through their professionalism, through their work ethic, through their voice still, sometimes their physical command of a performance, and sometimes their ability. So I think we try and break down, rather than have one leader or a leadership group, we try and say, look, you all become leaders in your own form, and you all rub off on each other. So we're trying to get that kind of collective leadership mentality.
You gave them that freedom, that responsibility to be leaders themselves, to grow into themselves.
Yeah, and use all the skill sets they've got to become a leader. Some people are leaders by their sheer professionalism. The way they go about their training, the way they go about their looking after themselves. They're just by their sheer way of doing what they do, and I think that can rub off on people. So we explain that we have value in that, rather than just being the stereotypical leader, if you like, to be maybe outspoken, loud, maybe forceful in their nature.
Yep.
And we're saying, well, there's different ways of leading, and so we want the whole collective to buy into that idea that they can lead in their own way.
Well, now that you've got a pre-season in as well, how has your ideas translated into games? How far is this side from what you envisioned them to be?
Well, the biggest thing that's changed, actually, because I think the format's been good through pre-season, some of the performances were good, but we lost players through injury. So one of the other things that people maybe lose sight of with the run we've just recently had, 5 wins in 7, is that we're getting back to a fully fit squad, and not just fit as in injury-free. I mean, like on-pitch fit, Premier League fit, which is a high level of fitness, and we're getting back to that. So therefore, we've become a stronger group. That aligned with some of the work that we did in pre-season. And as I mentioned, the performance levels in the early part of the season were very strong. It's just that we couldn't find the defining moments to keep a clean sheet and score a goal to win a game. Whereas now we are doing that, so we're adding that in. Well,
set pieces has always been a very important thing for you. I mean, Everton's one of the highest set piece goals and highest proportions as well. But it's not just here, it's been at clubs that you've been at as well. How much time on the training pitch do you actually work on set pieces?
Yeah, the coaches mainly work on that. I mean, I oversee it, but they mainly do the detail, and some of the analysts, I think. Inevitably, we just speak to the players in spite of the way that we work and the movement patterns. The 2 things that have to be a given are the ball in, the quality of the ball in, and the will and desire to attack the ball. I mean, they're 2 of the biggest things in set pieces, and I think we've got players for both. I think we've got good quality, and we've got players who believe in going into the box to score a goal. And I think that's been on show. We certainly work on that side of it, the mentality to go in believing you're going to score a goal.
Well, someone that's been on show, and certainly his attacking aspect of his game, Abdoulaye Doucouré. What's the idea behind shifting him into a more attacking role? Can you just talk us through this balance you're trying to achieve in that midfield with James Garner and Onana as well?
Well, the idea being that we think from last season, it's only a slight twist, but we were mainly Often Ganagay being a sitter, and then the two pushing in as the, you know, what we call two number eights with whoever it may be, Duke or whether it be Amadou, sometimes Jimmy, but he'd played wide. And I like the idea of having the two screens to go and play for us, and then Duke almost being a free role in the sense that he's very good at pressing. He's got a very high tolerance to his physical capacity, and he will score a goal. He'll get in the box. He wants to go and score a goal. He wants to join in. And I think he's done very well ever since we come to the club. You know, he wasn't a player that was figuring at that time.
What was it that you saw in him that you felt this?
Well, I liked him from his previous club, and when he came here, I always liked him. And different managers had different thoughts. So there's no thought of me in the previous management. That was their style.
Of course.
I just thought he fitted into what I believe would be right, and he's never looked back since we've been here. He's done ever so well.
Let's talk about Jarrett Brathwaite. I mean, his composure, his anticipation, miles beyond his years. What do you think his ceiling is?
Well, he's early yet, but he's going along very well. He's a very good player. He's a good type as well. I like his manner. He's good around the group. I think he's accepting the praise that he's getting, but he's accepting it in a very level way, and I think that's important. You want that kind of, as I mentioned, consistent mentality.
Yeah.
And I think he's got that, and I think that's going to be very important to him, you know, not to get too carried away at this stage. He's still learning. He's still raw in some ways, but he is definitely a player who's improving, and he's improving rapidly.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Malaysia, whether on a holiday or pre-season tour.
I haven't, but
you haven't?
I'd love to.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful country. We highly recommend it. So let us know when you do come. But we did bring one of your former players to Malaysia to do a bit of punditry, Aaron Lennon. Great guy, great guy.
He is.
Absolutely singing praises about you, both on and off air. You had such an impression on him that you were one of his most influential characters in his life. That's what he said. I mean, which kind of brings to wonder, what were your influences as a manager? Were there any players that, you know, left an impression on you?
Well, firstly, Aaron had had a few troubles, but I wasn't bothered about that. I always thought he was a very good footballer, which he is. I like him a lot as a person, which always helps. And I think there's a mutual respect there more than anything. I think I just stood by him as a person. I think that's right and proper to do anyway, forgetting about football management. That's how I try and treat people I know and friends and people who ask my advice. From my point of view, I think the good thing about my career, I was at what you'd call a journeyman footballer. I played for a full career from 16 to 36, but went around the divisions, and a lot of that rubs off on you. You know, you're playing. I think one of the biggest learning curves I had when I look back is, you know, started at a team at Chesterfield when people are, it's an amazing job, but it's a job. They're paying their mortgages. You know, they're not like Premier League players back then. The money wasn't like that. So you realise it means a lot. You know, every game means a lot, every bonus means a lot, every win means a lot. And then I went up the ladder a little bit, so it keeps rubbing off on different levels, and then different styles, different earning capacities, different challenges, different successes. And you learn a lot from all these experiences, a lot of different staff. I went through, you know, played for lots of different managers, lots of different coaches. And I think you begin to add into your own feeling as being a footballer. And when you come through playing side and you want to coach, I think for me, the biggest part of my development was working with the under-18s at Watford, because at that age, they're very malleable and very impressionable. And equally you are, because you're a young coach. And when they're young, if you get a session wrong, they don't really know, so they can't really let you know. So you can flex and change the way you work as a person with people. And then when you go into first team world, you need to have it right, because if you don't, the first team players do let you know. If you put on a session that isn't good enough, they will let you know. So I think that was a great learning curve coming out of a player and into the development years. For me, not just for the players, you know, what I could give to them, but equally what I learned about myself, different language styles, what people want to hear, different ways of learning, you know, visual, audio, kinesthetic, written discussion. How many of these can you use to get the best out of the players you're working with? So it's a tremendous learning curve for me, and that's how I've moulded myself to where I am. And one of my biggest rules is that it's always as a person first. If I can affect the person, I've got a chance of affecting their performance, but I need them to believe and trust me as a start point.
I mean, you spoke many times about mindset. I think it's really important to you, mental health aspect of things. But Aaron's been very open about his struggles with depression and all that. And for you, as a coach, as a manager, how much importance do you place on that? How much do you talk to your players about things like that and what they're going through?
Yeah, I mean, some players are very open, some are not. You know, some want to be left alone. Some want a bit more of your time, and our staff as well. You know, and people can be affected in different ways. Another thing I've learned, you know, some can be affected very simply from a conversation, they're very open. Others you maybe have to give, you know, a different kind of feel to and let them know the door's open. You might have to go and get them rather than them come to you, because players sometimes are a bit wary of the manager. They're like, I don't really want to go and see the manager. So you have to say, look, come up, you know, have a coffee and just...
Do you always ensure you always have a messaging that their door's always open for them to talk?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think they realise, and most people do, that I you know, look, different people put me in a box, they decide before they've even met me, that sort of thing. It's standard now in the media and everything. But when players work with me, I'd like to think they realise that I do care and I'm open to their thoughts, and I think this group have learned that over the last number of months. It was easier at Burnley because I was there a long time. Here I'm earning their respect, you know, so that takes a bit of time to build them relationships.
Yeah, because one of the things Aaron said to me was you're one of the most underrated, underappreciated and misunderstood managers there is.
Yeah, well, you know, I had a good relationship with Azza. I thought a lot of him, and I think, you know, I still do. I bump into him now and again and the odd message. I thought a lot of him, and he's a fantastic professional and come through a lot and dealt with it very well, I thought. So I'm pleased he thought well of me, but it's certainly reciprocating, because I think he's a top fella.
Well, now that he's been to Malaysia, maybe he'll give you some tourist tips whenever you come down as well. Great, Sean, thanks for having you on the show. All the best for the rest of the season, of course. Thank you.